Hey, Kings of Dragons, Dragon King 551 here, and we are 13 days away from the madness of March. What am I talking about? I'm obviously talking about the tournament for the NCAA and the National Championship of March Madness. So, right now, I'm going to go down the list of the top 25 teams as of right now. And you can see who I have obviously picked as winning the national championship. I got my boys, the Michigan Wolverines, taking Gonzaga down. So we'll get into that momentarily of who the final four teams are going to be. Um, Now, these rankings have dropped over the weeks. So, yes, Baylor is no longer 3. Michigan has risen to 2. Baylor is no longer 2. They have fallen to 3. Michigan has risen to 2. So we'll start with Gonzaga. Obviously, they finished the season 25-0. They're done. They're won. They're not going to change. That's the end of them. Michigan has a couple of games left, but I think if Baylor loses their game, I believe it's tonight or tomorrow night. I think tomorrow night. So if they lose that one, I think Michigan will stay at 2. Baylor will stay at 3. So Michigan rose. They're both the same record, but Michigan had more points in the voting. So that's why Baylor is 3 and Michigan is 2. Then obviously some teams jumped up. We have Illinois, who's number 4, Iowa, who's number 5, West Virginia, who is number 6, Ohio State, who originally was number 4 at Michigan, and that was a very good matchup, 3 and 4. And then Ohio State just dropped out of the ranking. Well, they did. They didn't knock Alabama out. Alabama was 7. Now they're 8. Then we have Houston at 9. Villanova at 10. Villanova was 8 originally. Now they have dropped. Florida State 11. Arkansas 12. Kansas 13. Creighton 14. Texas 15. Oklahoma 16. Oklahoma State 17. Texas Tech is 18, the team that knocked Michigan out 2 years ago in the Sweet 16. Not very happy about that, but I think Michigan has a better team now overall. San Diego State 19. Loyola Chicago a couple years back, 3 years ago. Final Four matchup, Michigan beat them. They're ranked 20th. Virginia, the team that had, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. I forget which year it was. 2016, I believe, where they got eliminated by UMBC or something. So they're not very good this year. They did have redemption last year. I think they won the whole thing. So or 2 years ago, and now they're 21st. So it can all change in an instant. Obviously, Michigan had some bad blood, but we'll talk about them in a minute. This is going to be about like every team. Usually Gonzaga is a very good team. Obviously, in the women's, it's going to be most of the time UConn as the best team. So moving on, we have Virginia Tech at 22, Purdue at 23, Colorado at 24, and Wisconsin at 25, with other teams still in categories with very low votes. So those are all the teams that have gone up. So obviously we know that the women's March Madness, we think UConn's going to win it all. Now let's get into why I had the 4 top seeded teams originally before I saw these new rankings. Obviously, I knew Michigan was going to go up or stay right where they were. Baylor was going to go maybe down, so I knew that. So the top 4 teams I had is the obvious choices, which is sometimes not a good idea to choose all the number 1 seeds because you know for a fact you can get eliminated like Virginia did, or Duke got eliminated, the Duke dilemma from Lehigh 2012. Then they won in 2017. Then they croaked out again the following year. That's the problem with Duke. I'm not going to say more. I don't think they're even going to make it this year. That's debated. That's just them. Now, so you can't choose every one team. But originally I had Baylor versus Michigan, and then I had Gonzaga versus Ohio State, and then I had the final 2 national championship game, Michigan versus Gonzaga. Now, obviously, that can all change. I mean, for now, Michigan is going to play number 4 Illinois tomorrow. I think Michigan can obviously beat that team, and I think Ohio State maybe still a 1 seed. I have to check that. I don't know if they're still a 1 seeded team. They might be. They could be 2 or 3 seeded now. But if they turn their season around, they may get back to the 1 seed in their final 3 games. However, Michigan has 3 games left. They have Illinois, Michigan State, and Michigan State. If they win all 3, or at least win 1 out of those 3, I mean, Michigan is not going to probably go down more than 1 spot, or they'll stay right at 2, or move down back to 3, and Baylor might rise again. But overall, I think Michigan will still have the Big Ten conference. Like Ohio State will not catch up. They're doing win percentages, and I don't think they will. So moving right along, let's talk about the big picture of why Baylor lost that game. Now, obviously, Baylor lost that game is because, personally, I just didn't see a lot of big guys. Like, they say that they're good at rebounding, Baylor, but I didn't see a lot of tall, like, super tall guys. I saw, like, maybe 6'8", 6'10", maybe the most at 6'10". For the most part, I feel Baylor plays more of a small ball concept like the Warriors did in 2016, and that's why Kansas was able to beat them offensively. They were finding rebounds and just finding, like, good in shots, and Baylor just had a complete off night, and I just don't see them winning the national championship. So, and another thing is that Baylor played cupcake teams, is what the term is. Weak ass teams. They did not play top ranked teams. They did play 3 or 4 top 25 teams. However, I feel like they didn't really prove themselves that much. I mean, they didn't play like a super top ranked team, and I didn't see them. Most of the time, they had like almost the easiest schedule ever. I mean, they didn't. Same with Gonzaga. They played like 2 or 3 easy teams. Michigan, on the other hand, had a tougher schedule. They lost to Minnesota, then they came off 3 weeks, they played Wisconsin, beat them, then they played Ohio State, beat them, then they played Iowa, beat them, then they played Indiana and beat them. And Indiana, even though they weren't ranked, they're usually a tough team. They're very good at basketball, even though they weren't ranked. They can still be a very good dominant team, and that's what happened in the first half. They were keeping the game close. Then Michigan opened it to a 16-point lead and won the game. My point is, Baylor and Gonzaga had the easiest schedule I have ever seen in my life, probably. I looked at their schedule. I think Gonzaga played, Iowa, Illinois, and I forget what other team they played. I can't remember. I do know they played 3 or 4 top-ranked teams. But ultimately, I feel like they didn't really prove themselves. I mean, I'm watching the guys, and they're not very tall, big guys. I mean, between like 6'7" and 6'10" is their tallest guy on Gonzaga and Baylor's team. And that's why Michigan will win the national championship. Because Michigan is not just all about, oh, I have a short guy, I have a small guy. No, Michigan has, from their shortest guy, I think, on the team is like 5'11". Mike Smith is 5'11". And then between, I think the guys are like 6'1" to 7'1". Like, you have Hunter Dickinson, who is 7'1", and then you have the other guy, Austin Davis, who who is freaking 6'10". You got 2 really good guys, and then you got Franz Wagner, who's another very good player, who's already scored 21 points in the last 2 games, and is just spectacular. And you just got this team, Michigan's team is like the number 1 ranked in 3-point percentages, and this team just finds the shots, finds the good shot, passes out, finds this, finds that. So Michigan, I think, will win the national championship. This is all about March Madness, though, so I gave you the rankings. Alabama somehow sneaked in. I don't know where they came from, but they were superstars, apparently. They just came out of nowhere and took that ranking of 6, and then they dropped a little bit, but overall, they were pretty good. Again, I don't know why Gonzaga didn't play like very top ranked teams. I mean, I remember the first year. Was it the first? I think it was the first game of 2 years ago because they didn't play last year. They due to everything going on, but so I believe it was Gonzaga versus Fairleigh Dickinson, and Fairleigh Dickinson just got blown away in that game. I think it was like 92-56 or something. I think it was like an absurd score. But I mean, then I think Gonzaga got shut down like in the Sweet 16, and they got obliterated, and they didn't go any farther. This year, I think Gonzaga definitely can make it to the Final Four, but it can all change in a heartbeat. Listen, just because you're a good team now and you look really star power now, doesn't mean down the line you can't lose a game. I mean, every team who is good can be defeated and will be defeated with time and fatigue and lose the game. I mean, it's happened with the Golden State. They had 5 NBA Finals. They lost. Their dynasty went down in dumps, and they're trying to get back into that championship level. We obviously have Virginia, where they had that off year. Then they bounced back the next year, won the championship, and now they're having an off year again, not doing so well. So, in a heartbeat, everything can change. I mean, Michigan has made 3 really good runs in the past couple of years. I believe they went really far in the 2009 and 2010. They had really good teams, but I don't know if they made it to the national championship. I think they got eliminated earlier than that. Obviously, Duke used to be a really good team from 2012 up to 2017 and 2018. They did really well. But again, they're always having that dilemma of they can't get past a certain team, and that's their problem. So there's all different dilemmas. I mean, Michigan has had dilemmas where they can't finish it off, so they haven't won a national championship in a very long time. Like, yes, they've won a national championship. They haven't won a national championship since the 80s or 90s. I don't remember what year around it was. I believe it was like 80s, 90s, around that era. They haven't won a national championship since that time period. However, they have made it to several national championships. They made it to 2013 against Louisville. They lost that game. Louisville had some problems. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was drugs or some other fanatic thing, but I don't remember what happened with them. But anyway, their title got stripped. Michigan got the title. That doesn't even really resonate with me properly. I want Michigan to actually beat the team and own the title. I don't want them to win on a technicality or someone gets their title stripped and the runner-ups gets the title. I actually want that team to actually win. Let's say I don't know. Like, obviously I'm Michigan because I'm loyal, but let's say I picked I was just a basketball fan in general. I didn't have a team that I chose, right? I ultimately my basketball fan base and I love basketball. It's just a sport I love. I want to see that team in the national championship actually earn it. I don't want and actually get it and defeat their opponent. I don't want to see them win it because this team cheated with drugs or the refs got paid off or something. I don't want that. I actually want the team to actually earn it by competing their ass off and proving that they actually deserve to be there and proving that they're the number one team in the March Madness tournament and the other team is the runner-up. So yes, Michigan has made it to a couple. They've made it in 2018. They lost that to Villanova. They lost in 2013, got the title stripped, got it back. I don't want that. But again, Michigan, I think, will win the national championship this year. I have a lot of faith in them. I don't think Baylor will win. I don't think Gonzaga will win because those two teams are good now, but that's because they played weak-ass teams. They didn't play strong teams. Michigan played, I can run down the whole entire Michigan schedule, but I won't because I don't feel like it. Michigan in the first 3-4 weeks of their games, they played Bowling Green, I forget who else they played, Creighton or something, I forget who it was. Those two games, and then they played Penn State and some other weak team, But in those 4 weeks, they looked like a very strong team. And then they started playing ranked teams and beating teams. And originally they were ranked 25th. And then they rose from 25th to 19th. And then they were out of the rankings for a little bit. Then they rose to 19th. Then they rose to 10th. Then they rose to 6th. And now they're not. And now they're number 2 team in the country. And that's what you got to watch out for. Gonzaga, yeah, I mean they can go to, they deserve to be 25-0 because they played so well. They're playing so well together, like the teams, but they're not playing strong teams. That's like saying, okay, Michigan play. That's like saying Michigan in football and Clemson in football. Okay, Clemson plays Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and a couple other top schools, right? And then Michigan plays, I don't know, Penn State, and then they play Michigan State, and then they play Division III schools. They play like Duke football, and they play Fordham football, and they play Harvard football. That's not going to give Michigan a top-ranked seed if you're playing weak-ass teams because you're not proving yourself against strong teams, and that's why Gonzaga and Baylor will not win the national championship because they haven't played against a top-caliber team, unlike Michigan, who have played top 10 teams such as Iowa and Ohio State, and they're going to play Illinois tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and they will, at 7 o'clock, and they're going to try to prove themselves again down the line. And then they play Michigan State 2 times, which probably they will win that. And they probably will not play all their starters because they don't want them getting injured and save them for the national championship and obviously the Big Ten championship. I think Michigan will win the Big Ten championship because they're just a very hot team. Now, obviously, so those are my thoughts. Obviously, I know Michigan will potentially win the national championship game. Can they do it? Can they finish it off this year? Absolutely. They have a great coach, Juwan Howard. And I love Juwan Howard. He's a great, great coach. Wagner's a great player. Hunter Dickinson's a great player. Mike Smith, Shawnee Brown, Eli Brooks, Isaiah Livers. They're all very, very good players. And that's where you gotta watch out for the players. They're very good. So let's talk about Juwan Howard for a second and why he's such a good coach. He's so dominant because he tells his team what to do, and he finds scenarios where he can break it down and just win the games for them. For example, Juwan Howard is a 2012 and 2013, He's a 2-time NBA championship. He's coached in the NBA as an assistant coach. He's never had a head coach job, but he knows the game, and he's watched the NBA, and he knows what's going on, and he knows how that game works. Then he used to be a former player he's a 2-time NBA champ as in Miami, and he also used to be a Michigan former player and alumni of Michigan. So by going back to that school, he knows what's up and he knows how to coach, and that's why he's such a good coach, because he went to that school. He's been in championship situations before, and he knows how to win games. That's the coach you want. Now, yes, you can yell at me all you want. What about Jim Harbaugh? He used to be a Michigan alumni. Why isn't he doing well? Because football is a whole different head horse honcho shot. It's a harder sport to develop your players and win a national championship. Basketball is somewhat of an easier sport to develop your player because of the fact there's only 5 positions to develop. You got center, you got small forward, power forward, you got point guard and shooting guard, and then you got to develop those backup players. Like there's, 15, 20 players on your team, where college football and NFL football, you got 53 men on your roster. You got freaking 90 men on your roster in college, and you have to worry about developing them all. So, yeah, don't attack me about that, but Juwan Howard, I think, is a very good coach. He will win the national championship game for Michigan. They will get there. I believe they will. My March Madness is all picked. I have picked Michigan to win the national championship. That is a fact of my prediction. I believe they will win. They're very dominant right now. They have the number one 3-point percentage, and that's a problem for other teams. They got to be on their game all the time. I mean, if you're off your 3 points, you're not going to win the game. But some of the times, let's talk about Baylor again for a second here. Obviously, we got Baylor, who's a very, very strong team ultimately. Like, they only have one blemish on their season, same as Michigan. But the problem is when they were playing Kansas, they got desperate. And that is your downfall in games. You don't get desperate when there is like a lot of time left on the clock. You don't shoot those shots. When you get desperate, you lose your game, you lose your cool, you lose your flow of the game, you lose your mojo, and that will cost you ultimately and knock you out of the playoffs. Because you've got to keep a cool, collected head, and you can't get angry about calls. You can't get texts. You can't get ejected. You've got to keep it cool the whole down the stretch, and that's what Baylor did not do against Kansas. I repeat, did not do. Unlike how Michigan keeps their cool, they miss the three, they get back on D, they go to transition. Those players on the other team miss the shot. They go back and say, all right, let's find an easy shot. Don't worry about the three right now. We may be down by one, but if we go inside, chances are our player is going to get the shot and also get the foul, and then it can be a tie game. That's what you got to do. Baylor did not do that. They got desperate. They didn't go for the easy shot. It would have been a closer game. Potentially, Baylor could have won against Kansas and stayed 19-0. Instead, they're 18-1, and they lost the game. That is not what's gonna do it. You gotta get inside your team, your opponent's head. Basically, make them make mental mistakes. You gotta make them make those pressure shots. Make them make those threes and make them sweat it out. Michigan, though, the reason why is gonna be a tough team to beat is because you freaking have. Oh, I'm gonna close out on a three. All right, now, what are you gonna do? Oh, wait, there's guys who can drive. So you give it to Wagner, you give it to Hunter Dickinson, who's right under the hoop, who's 7'1", and he just goes bam and dunks it right in and gets the and one. And you're not gonna win games if you cover the three too much, and you're not gonna win games if you cover the paint too much. You're gonna have to force them in tough shots. And I don't think that's going to happen, and that's why Michigan will win the national championship. So this is my March Madness. Obviously, I gave you the rankings. I do think that Duke will bounce back next year. I don't know how well they'll do, but we got to see who actually are in the championship. I mean, Rutgers could be sneaking in. There are definitely some unranked teams that could be sneaking in. Again, it doesn't necessarily matter so much about the ranking as much as your win percentage and your ultimate record. Yeah, Michigan is a top 2 team, and that helps them be a number 1 seed and helps them guarantee themselves in the March Madness tournament because there's only 3 games left. They're obviously in. There's no chance they're going to be knocked out and not be in the game. But yeah, you want to try to be in that top 25. Ultimately, you could still win and be playing an easier schedule. It could be Rutgers could be, I don't know, let's say Rutgers is 20-0 right now, right? Even though they're not. I think they're 15-14 or something, 19-10 or something. I don't know what their record is. But let's say Rutgers played the easiest schedule. They only played Michigan once, right? So they're obviously 20-1, right? They're doing so well. They're playing easy games. Yeah, they're not ranked, but they could be still a top-tier team, and that's how they get in. So ultimately, we gotta wait a little bit longer, 13 days for the official rosters and everyone coming out and who's in, who's out. But this was my March Madness predictions. Obviously, I gotta go with Michigan. They're my boys. I gotta go with the team that I like. So yeah. Until next time, guys. Don't forget to stay radical. I'll see you in the next one. My prediction is that Michigan will win the championship at the end. So those are my predictions. Leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment on who you think will win. And I'll see you in the next one.